Hey friends, and welcome back to my channel. Long time no seesies. I literally feel like I'm saying that in every single one of my videos these days. Trust me, I am just as sick of hearing it as you guys are. Have we peeped the Sugarlicious tea? It says spoiled rotten. I'm obsessed with it. Shop Sugarlicious if you're sexy. Today I am back, and I am back with a highly anticipated video. And that, my friends, is the story time of how I not only wrecked but also totaled my very first car less than a month after I got both it and my driver's license. Disclaimer, this all transpired like 5 years ago. So the story may get a bit like choppy and a wee bit confusing at times, but trust me, I am going to try to make it as cohesive as possible. So buckle up, grab some snacks and your crash helmets because this story, it's gonna be a doozy. So just to put it all into perspective for just how absolutely redonkulous the time span in which all of this took place was, I want you guys to keep 3 dates in mind, okay? Okay. I took driver's ed and got my learner's permit my freshman year of high school, and this was between the years of 2016 and 2017. Then I finally got my actual driver's license like a little bit over a year later on September 13th, 2018. That was also the day that I got my very first car. Then on October 5th, 2018, less than 3 weeks, 23 days to be specific, after getting my license and my very first car, I wrecked and just absolutely destroyed the same car in the most insane way. Like, I promise you, nothing can prepare you for the story that I am about to tell you. Now, as a drama queen, I love me a good dramatic backstory, so before I give you guys all the juicy deets on the accident itself, we're just gonna breeze through what led up to my accident so that we can have a little bit of context, you know, like set the tone for the story. Now, I'm sure I am not the only one who feels this way, but the idea of driving has just always freaked me out. Like, I've had driving anxiety before I could even reach the pedals of a car. I don't know, there's just something so freaking intimidating about operating a motorized death trap, and the fact that you only have control of your own motorized death trap while you're out on a road full of other motorized death traps. So, sensing that driving was going to be a fear that I was just never going to overcome on my own, my loving mother dearest decided to sign me up for driver's ed as soon as my freshman year started. I would like the court to know that this was very much so against my will, but I knew that I was going to have to get done sooner or later, so I just bit the bullet. Plus, I really had no choice because she already paid for it. So time goes on, I take the course, I pass it, I take the behind the wheel part, I pass it, and I finally got the certificate that qualified yours truly to get her learner's permit. I don't know how it is for like other states, but I know for my state you have to jump through like 50 million friggin' hoops to even get your learner's permit. Fun fact, I actually failed my permit test the first time I took it, and I had to go retake it like the very next day. Now, if you ask me, this was a little bit of foreshadowing that maybe, just maybe, your girl was not ready to drive just yet. But in my defense, okay, I was like only 1 question away from passing. Like, I was at the very end of the test, and then I got 1 question wrong. Like, you only can get 2 wrong, and then like they flunk you. Whatever, okay? Anyways, I'm totally not still bitter, but I did end up passing, and I got my LP, okay? So it was all Gucci. So then I had to have my LP for an entire year before I could even qualify to take my driver's test to get my level 2 license. I'm gonna keep it real with y'all, okay? I'm gonna be 100% transparent. I faked my driver's log. I did. I faked every single hour on that driving log because, truth be told, I really tried to get behind the wheel as least amount of times as possible. Like, I was not driving. And TBR, like, I think most kids did that. I mean, at least the kids that I know, like, we all kind of faked our driver's times. Now, to any of my young homies out there watching me, hey, do not follow my footsteps. I do not endorse that message. I do not encourage you to forge or fake your driver's times, okay? Take it from me. We clearly saw where that got me. So, after waiting the entire year, I finally grew a pair of cojones, okay, and I went down to the DMV with my dad, and I took attempted to take my first driver's test. I say attempted because I didn't even get a chance to actually take the test because we got turned down at the DMV because I didn't have like proof of insurance. Foreshadowing. This is like another weird rule in my state. I mean, not really like weird because like you have to have insurance in order to drive a car. Again, I don't know how like that works in other states, but like before you can even like qualify to take your driver's license here, you have to have insurance already for your car. I don't know, it makes like absolutely no sense to me, but yeah, I didn't have that at the time, so we had to like wait and go back the next day. Again, I say the process of getting your license in my state is so tedious and just unnecessary, but like I kind of understand it now. Like they make you jump through all of these hoops to really prove that you belong, you know, on the road, and even then menaces to society like me still get that piece of plastic, so I don't know. So yeah, after jumping through all of those friggin' hoops, I went back the very next day with my mama, and on September 13th 2018 I took and passed my driver's test and got my license. I was so unbelievably nervous taking that test, and like it was the easiest thing I've ever had to do in my life. I literally had to like drive down the street, pull into like some type of industrial complex, do like a 3-point turn, an abrupt stop, show that I knew how to use my friggin' signals, turn right back around and go back to the DMV lot. Like it was so easy. At this time too, I want to say that I was 16 years old, and then I turned 17 the fall like that November, so that was just like a happy birthday to me, you know. But yeah, I got my first ever car, and it was actually my mom's old car. I remember it because I used to literally ride in it like for a majority of my childhood. It was a 2001 like tan colored Toyota Camry. My mom had literally had that car since I was like 5 years old, question mark, and had kept it even after she got herself a brand new car because she just knew that she was gonna pass that car down to her baby girl. Despite previously, you know, being just absolutely scared shitless of driving, I surprisingly was like really excited to have my license, like the freedom that came with it. But let's keep in mind, okay, that I still only had my level 2 at this time. So since I only had my level 2, I still had like a bunch of rules that I had to follow, or else I could get like points on my license and possibly get it revoked till I was like 18. So because of all of this, and coupled with the fact that I was still essentially a very inexperienced driver, my mom was like soups strict with the limitations on where I could and could not drive. I was literally only allowed to drive myself to and from school and to places that were like super close to our house. I wasn't even allowed to drive myself to work because it was too far away from our house. And you know, naturally as the rambunctious teen that I was, I tended to like bend the rules every now and then, which in retrospect was a bad idea, okay? A very bad idea.
Because on October 5th, 2018, everything came to a screeching halt.
It was homecoming day, and 3 of my friends and I had decided to go to the game together. But after school, we still had like a lot of time to kill before the game, so we all thought it would be so fun to take a little road trip down to the mall, which mind you was like literally less than a 5-minute drive from our school. And naturally, you know, since your girl was the only one with a car and a driver's license, I was the designated driver. Now, the rules of a level 2 license specifically state that you are not allowed to have more than 1 minor, aka anyone under the age of 18, in the car with you alone at a time. Like, had it been all 3 of us and an adult, we would have been fine. But since it was 1 minor with 3 other minors, okay, I was already breaking a couple rules here. And again, since the mall was like literally right around the corner from our school, I didn't really think too much of it. Like, I thought we were gonna go to the mall, stay there for a little bit, come back, go to the game. Plus, there was like a bunch of different shortcuts that you could take to get there that were like not on a lot of busy roads. So, you know, I thought I was in the clear. Now, even though I was a baby driver and very inexperienced, I still would have liked to consider myself a pretty safe and precautious driver. Since I was like practically what felt like fresh out of driver's ed, I was still super textbook. The hands were always on 10 and 2. I didn't drive with the music super loud. I was always checking my mirrors like 25/8. So after we decided on a game plan, we hop in my car and we just go on our merry little way. Shortly after we even pulled out of the gosh dang school, I missed like a turn to like take one of the shortcuts, but I wasn't sweating it because there was another shortcut not too far down the road that I had been pretty much familiar familiar with for years because it just so happened to be located in a business complex where my mother worked. Yep, this story is going exactly where you think it's going. So when I missed the turn, my friends were like,
"Girl, where you going?"
And I was like,
"No worries, babes. I know another way."
Now, this is where things get a little tricky, so I need you to stay with me, okay? The speed limit for the street that I was driving on was 45 miles per hour. And normally, this is no big deal as long as you're just driving straight. I was not driving straight. I just so happened to be turning off of this street. And this street just so happens to turn into a hill. A very steep hill that conveniently happens to get even steeper right where I am about to turn off of the street to make a right turn. And when you take this right turn, this very sharp right turn, you get spit out into like this business complex situation. To this day, I still stand firmly behind the fact that I slowed down before I made this insane turn, but I guess it wasn't slow enough. What happens next is honestly still like such a blur to me just because everything happened like so freaking fast. I'm driving down the street, I go to go make the right turn, and I ultimately end up making a very wide right turn. Said turn ends up being entirely too wide, and I end up just ramming into this thick ass median in the middle of the road. I literally hit the median so hard that the impact like caused my like front left tire to like invert within itself, which then causes my steering wheel to lock up. Like literally not even the strength of the freaking Hulk himself could have gotten that steering wheel to move. And once my wheel locked up, I just lost complete control of the car. My car swerves and goes like veering off to the right side of the street at full speed. We hop a curb and then go flying down this hill at full force.
To this day, like when I think about that exact moment, all I can remember is like everyone in the car just screaming. I'm freaking out. I'm like stomping on the brake, trying to get the car to at least slow down. But when I took the momentum of this car was like so fast that there was nothing I could do. Like nothing was working.
So we're going down the hill full freaking speed. My car is going so fast that we end up flying underneath a metal fence and into the parking lot of a business. So I've regained control of my wheel at this point, and now I'm like swerving around left to right trying to avoid hitting a car in this very packed parking lot. And conveniently enough, you know, I'm actually very familiar with this parking lot. And would you like to know why? Just guess, use your context clues. Yeah, that's because this is the parking lot of my mom's job. By the grace of the freaking universe, as I'm swerving in and out, I've managed to miss like 2 or 3 whole rows of cars until eventually my car just gives up and veers to the left, and I slam full speed into this like minivan. It was so bad, in fact, that like the impact ended up causing some type of like domino effect where when I hit one car, that car hit another car, and then that car hit another car. And it was just, I can't even, wow. But at this point, I didn't really know this because, you know, I was just so gosh dang disoriented from literally crashing my car. I was shocked. Like, I simply could not fathom the fact that this had just happened. I snap out of this trance and then like instantly go into mommy mode, trying to make sure that everyone else in my car is like okay. Luckily no one ends up getting hurt in this, thank God. I literally would not be able to live with myself. I could have potentially hurt someone, like, but I wouldn't know what I would have done if I actually did. We're all more like scared and terrified than anything, so we hop out the car to like assess the damages and like figure out what's going on. And y'all, my car is just absolutely like, I mean, it's smoking. Like the entire front left side of the car is gutted. Like it literally looked like a freaking transformer had taken a gigantic chunk out of my car as a snack. Luckily enough, the only like major damage essentially was like only at the front left side of the car, which is like the driver's side. And when I say that the damage literally stopped right at the driver's side door, I fully believe that had I crashed at even just like a little bit more of an accelerated speed, my legs would be noodles. Like I would just have little fragments of bones. I wouldn't be standing right now. Like it was that bad. By now, a few people who like happened to be outside when all of this shit went down come rushing up to us. They're all like trying to make sure we're okay. They're like, how did this happen? What just happened?
I would have these questions too if I just saw some random car go flying off side of the road, flying down a hill underneath a fence and then crash
into these cars.
So after all of this, they're like, do you need us to get into contact with anybody for you, like a parent we can call or something? And I'm all like, funny story, actually. My mom actually works here. And they're like, okay, so who is she? Like, we'll go get her. When I said my mother's name, all of their faces just like collectively dropped instantly. Now, if you knew my mother like I know my mother, you would understand why this reaction was given. Because at that time, my mom had been working at this particular office for like years. So she had like established a bit of a reputation for herself. Mumsy, if you're watching this, I love you to death, but you scare the absolute out of people, especially the people at her job. Like, if there was one thing everyone understood about my mom, it was that you do not with her, okay? Because being on her bad side is like the worst thing you could ever do to yourself ever. So when I tell these people who my mom is, they already know the dealio, okay? They know that I'm literally about to get my handed to me on a silver platter. I will literally never forget the words that came out of the mouth of the woman who asked me who my mom was when I told her who my mom was. That woman looked me dead in my eyes, okay, my irises, and said,
"Oh honey, I am so sorry."
So a few people like run into the building to like let my mom know the sitch, but by now like word is starting to spread around the office about this absolute circus that's happening in the parking lot. I am still trying to figure out what the is going on, okay, on top of trying to comfort my friends, you know, because I just essentially scarred them for life. And now I have to deal with the wrath of my mother. She finally comes outside and she is just speechless. Like, I mean, absolutely speechless. And when she does find the strength to, you know, utilize her vocal cords, all she can keep saying is,
"Oh my god, this isn't happening, this isn't happening, this isn't happening."
In that moment, I'm pretty sure I had that woman questioning why she even conceived me. So, you know, by now I'm sure you guys are probably thinking, well, Tosh, you know, at least it can't get any worse than that. You know, you already just totaled your car, probably you're about to lose your license and just traumatized your friends for life. But no, it gets even worse. By now there's a whole swarm of people outside. The cops are there, the paramedics are there, the people whose cars I hit, yeah, I remember them, they're outside now trying to assess the damages to their car. The first car that I crashed into, if I remember correctly, it was actually a rental car that the man who owned it literally only had because he had just gotten in a car accident like 2 or 3 weeks prior. The second car that the first car ended up getting smashed into because of my car was a
Audi.
A very expensive
Audi.
And do you know who the third and final car in this collision belonged to? If you said my mother, you'd be correct. Yeah, I hit my mom's car. Out of all the cars in this big parking lot, I somehow managed to hit my mother's car. And when my mother realized that her car had gotten f***ed up too, sent her over the edge. Sent her over the edge. She probably would have strangled me to death in that moment had that parking lot not been full of so many witnesses. So as we're assessing the damages, you know, the cops are coming up taking their statements or whatever. My friend's parents, they've been called and they're starting to come in. Emotions are running high. Everything was just a goddamn mess, okay? It was a goddamn mess. Then we went through the whole spiel of recapping the chain of events to my friends' moms, who were surprisingly like very chill about the whole situation. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but nothing really scandalous happened after that. By the time things started like winding down, my mom's boss, who was also the boss lady of like the whole building, yeah, she came downstairs, which shouts out to her because she essentially ended up saving my. She called the emergency responders to come, you know, clean up the mess and like talk to the cops and stuff. Since the incident had like technically taken place on private property, it was up to like the business people, owners, whatever, to like decide what came of the whole situation. And thanks to the boss lady, she kind of just like swept everything under the rug. So I didn't get any charges pressed against me. I didn't get any points on my license. I basically kind of just got out scot-free, you know, besides having totaled my car and traumatized myself for life. A tow truck eventually came and hauled my totaled car off back to our house. Then like the next day we ended up having to send it off to like a scrapyard and I never saw it again, so RIP her. And after all the smoke cleared, my parents and I essentially just went home to deal with the aftermath. Luckily enough, even though my mom's car did get hit, the damage wasn't severe enough that it was like not able to be driven, but she did have to like drive with her steering wheel positioned a certain way because like the alignment had gotten all fudged up. And
that was that.
We never did end up making it to homecoming that night.
obviously.
I literally even went to a Kali Uchis. Is it Uchis or Uchis? I never knew. Anyways, I went to a Kali Uchis concert literally the very next day. I wasn't even gonna go anymore, but my mom literally insisted that I went. That goes to show, like, although I was like terrified of my mom's response, she surprisingly took the whole thing very well. I honestly think she was just happy that I like walked out of there alive, that she was like okay with whatever happened after that. I refused to drive for like almost 2 years after that until like my senior year of high school. Towards the end of my senior year, the pandemic hit, and without the pandemic, I would have never gotten my job as like a COVID cleaning lady, where I got paid enough money to finally go out and buy my own car 2 years after my accident, which is the car that I have now. And that, my friends, is the story about how I wrecked and totaled my very first car less than a month after getting it. On a serious note though, I still have like a lot of remorse and regret about the whole like ordeal to this day. I take full responsibility for how everything went down. I should not have had all those people in my car, especially knowing that it was very much so illegal and very much so dangerous, and especially because I was very much so a new and inexperienced driver. My friends and I were very lucky to have walked out of that unscathed. So if you take any other lesson from this video or just any piece of advice from me ever, please let it be to slow down and take your time, whether it be with getting behind the wheel or just life in general. It is more than okay to slow down and go at your own pace. I still wish that I had taken a little bit more time to like, you know, get my bearings together and really like practice driving before I went out and even got my license. But hey, such is life, okay? At least it makes for good content. Remember to always buckle up, never text and drive, never drive under the influence, and most certainly do not ever pack your friends into your car with a can of sardines and then wreck your car. Just don't do that. Maybe that last thing might be a little bit of a personal experience, but my advice still stands the same.
Come every time you come around my London Bridge, wanna go down like London, wanna go down like London, we going down like